Okay, welcome everybody to our second weekly. We will start with the demos for issue 12. Who wants to start?
Hi everyone. Since I worked on the UI part, I was I could just walk us through a very quick demo / what I did on the UI end, and someone on the other team can hopefully walk us through the code that is powering our certain functionality, if that's okay.
Okay, thank you. Did you merge the two parts? So right now, if you show us the UI, will it show the actual sorted list?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I mean, then we don't really need to go in detail in the code for either case. We can just walk through real quick or give an explanation of what's going on.
Okay, yeah, sure, no problem. Okay, so I'm going to start sharing my screen. Okay, yeah. So this is the regular. Oh, interesting. I'm going to yeah. Okay, so I'm starting like a new list, and now if you create a list, you can add an item. Say bread, you want to buy that soon. You can do that, and it should show up here. So the issue here this week was that we wanted to create a better sorting UI element so that right from the get-go, a user can tell which items are grouped. So now the list is not just lumped together anymore, and they have like different buckets where they can be in. There's no CSS right now, so it's a bit ugly, but I added some tags and all of that. So all of these things are in buckets, and then you can just delete, cross off just like before. So how I did this was that I was able to create a new, yes, I created a new component that basically would just take in each bucket, add an icon and add a title, and map through each of the items and put them under each bucket. So I wired up the new component into our list item, and then I also added what Christina and Terry worked on, which is here. This is a sorted list from the compare purchase urgency function. I wired that up into my tiny functions here that I use for the comparisons, and that is what allows them to be able to show up on the UI. So that's basically like all of the backend code, and this is what the UI looks like. So if you want to add something that you're not really buying soon, say maybe like a new charger, and you add that, it's going to show up right here. So once you come into the UI, you can know exactly what you're buying soon, what you're not buying soon, and items that are inactive. So this would mean that items in inactive are things that the days until the next time you want to buy them is like way over 60. So yeah, that's all that we worked on. Any questions, comments?
Okay, thank you very much, Debbie. Yes, Peter, please.
No, I was going to say, it looks nice. Can we try with by joining the list to see if we have a list that shows us some data in all the categories? Because I tried yesterday with one with the list, and somehow I got an error and I wasn't sure what was the cause.
I'm sorry, what was the question? Are you asking if this will work if you have a new list, or?
If you can show from the demo, like joining some past lists that you all have been creating in the last few weeks. So maybe something with more data.
Oh yeah, so, well, I could do that, yes. Let me just, does anyone remember their tokens?
Peter, did you try out the list I suggested in the GitHub comment? Did you try out that list?
Oh, okay. I think
didn't get a chance to look at the.
I mean,
maybe give her the name for her to try with the list. Because I tried with this, my test list, and that was the one that gave me errors as well.
Yeah, I think I'm seeing the same issue now.
So maybe clear your
cache, yeah.
Okay, or we can check out the data in my test list and see if something in the data isn't correct. Because this
Okay.
my test list, is it a recent list or is it one of the old ones?
Oh,
Yeah, can you give her the name for the one you mentioned, Golfo?
Both me and Terry pasted the list tokens in the Google chat.
Google Chat. Oh, here. Okay. Yes. I'll just take this. Okay, so I'll play again and I'll put that here. And yeah, this is these are the only stuff on the list. I could try the other one as well. Oh yes, I know this one. I remember this one. I think I saw someone use this before. Oh yes, that's a great one. Yes, so now these are themes that are quite inactive. So they show up here. We don't have anything on what not to buy soon, and these are things to buy soon. Sorry, kind of soon and soon, based on the comparison. Does that work for the demo, Peter?
Yeah. I was just concerned with, I think probably something was wrong with my test list.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, and also we made an assumption that the next purchase date is going to be in the future. I think, do we have a comment for that somewhere?
Yeah. It's on the code. We had a comment. Yeah.
So if there's an item with a date next purchase in the past, we didn't think about what happens. So we just make the assumption there. And I don't know, maybe another step can be thinking of what happens with it. Because I asked in the Slack channel, I have to ask again, and nobody answered, like Andrew or Stacy.
I think it's fine with the assumption you made. But personally, I think it does the basic idea of being able to put them into categories, like it's already shown. So for me, it looks awesome.
Thank you.
And you use both text and some colors to.
Yeah, that is great. I have to say, well done, Debbie.
My only
Thank you.
suggestion would be, like, I'm nitpicking now, that usually green.
It's fine.
Okay. No. I'm wrong, because yeah, with putting the first tag red, you mean it's more urgent, so it's correct. I was about to say that it will make sense the other way around, but your way makes a lot more sense. So yeah, nice idea.
Yeah, sure. I actually left that up to, I think I mentioned this to Christina and Terry as well, that I just put this colors here as placeholders. So there are things that are quite open to feedback. If we want to change the icons or want to change the colors, that can come up in styling. But I was hoping that we could just get the functionality done first and cleared up. Yeah. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I'm going to stop sharing now.
Thank you very much. Does anybody from the other team want to make some comments, talk about their work? I mean, the work was already presented by Debbie, but maybe you want to add something, or maybe something you learned, or I don't know.
Well, we learned a lot, and everything thanks to Golfo. And yeah, so sorry, Pita, for missing your call, because we were actually in another call with Golfo, so she really helped us out a lot with the code, because we were, like, Terry and I were completely, our brains were drained. But yeah, like, we learned a lot from the sorting function, and like, thanks to you both, because yeah, I think we wouldn't have figured out for example, the functionality of the sort function, like the discrepancies between Firefox and Chrome. Like, I would have never realized about it. And on the other side, like, getting the days between dates, that was also, like, at least personally, like, for me, it was really, like, I was not getting it. So yeah, thank you all for a lot for your support on this. Yeah. And also, like, thank you, Debbie, for coming up together with like the two of us and trying to figure out how to merge the variable into your code as well to make it happen. So I don't know, I'm very happy that now the whole functionality is done, and that's yeah, we kind of managed somehow, and although we are a bit late, we managed in like to make it as a team due to despite the last week circumstances. So yeah, I'm very satisfied with that. So yeah, thanks to everybody who contributed.
And
Awesome.
thank you, Christina, for not giving up and persevering, even though the work was difficult. Terry, do you have something you want to add?
No, not really. I think Christina said it all, and yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And now I will go a bit quickly over, although we've seen issue 13 again, I will just share it so we can remember it a bit.
But this one, what did we agree on taking 2 more weeks to do it, or how?
I mean, I saw in the emojis that Terry, Christina, Debbie, and I reacted with yes. And if Peter is also okay to extend it, I was thinking the way to extend it is to move the final demo 1 week. So if everybody is available to have the final demo, not on the 27th, but on the 4th.
Okay, good.
And I don't know, we can decide if we want to have a weekly in between. Maybe we can not have a weekly or just have like an async weekly or something.
I
So
think.
you mean like,
Oh, sorry, Peter. You can go.
go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think async would be great if we take the next 2 weeks to just try to make the app pretty and take in consideration all of the other things that we might have, left out. 2 weeks is a really solid amount of time to get solid work done in all of these areas. So yes, with creating the mood boards and figuring out what our style should be and all of that. Yeah, so maybe we can skip the next async and then just do our final demo and show off our app on December 4th. Sorry, Peter, you can go now.
Yeah. No, I think I had a question around if you meant having 2 weeks for issue 13, but from the comment, I think that's what the plan is. For me, I'm okay with doing extra week. I just want to know if there'll be a weekly sync next week or not,
I think we can skip it because I mean the next weekly sync weekend is supposed to be a retro, and I think it's better we have the retro at the end, and the retro is better if it's something about the entire cohort.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. That makes sense.
And yep, I agree with what Debbie said, that in these last 2 weeks, you can also think of the styling and also everything else. For example, if you discover a bug and you have to decide that, do you want the app to look very pretty, even though it has some bugs, or do you want the app to be bug-free and very good at functionality, but not so pretty? So you have to decide how to spend your time. And I will again show real quick the issue 13. I don't know if you had time to look at issue 13 at all since the last times. Share my screen. Okay, you see what do you see? Do you see the issue or do you see
Yeah,
our faces?
the issue.
Okay, cool. So as we said the other time, that we want the app to look professional and welcoming. And this means you have to come up with a design process and think of what kind of tools, frameworks, or just plain CSS you're going to use. I don't know if you had some time already to talk about this. And You will be, the most important is that you will be writing the stories needed to complete the implementation. So, you know, the stories need to be well defined, and you need to decide who is going to work on what. So assign the correct people on each story. And I don't know, does anybody have some questions on this? So there's a design process here you can follow, but it's a suggestion. If you want to follow something else, it's okay. I guess not. And you can ask questions in the week, but if possible, try to figure out what you're going to do in the start of this week, so you can tell us in the Slack channel and show us the user stories. So also we mentors are aware of what you're going to do and your plan.
You mean that we need to create different user stories for every step we make? Or...
Yes, so you come together, you decide what you are going to make. Like, for example, you can say that we want to add the tailwind and we want to set the basic colors of the app. So you can make stories for each of that.
So we need to create one issue for each thing, and then we will do the same, like create a pull request and like as we did till now.
Yep.
Okay.
And let me see. I think this week you can, let me see if there are teams this week. There are teams Terry and Victoria and Christine and Deborah. Sorry, Debbie. Sorry, I'm reading the project.
It's fine.
The project brief. It says Deborah. Yep. So I mean, Victoria might not be coming, so it will be just Terry. But I mean, if the user stories are simple enough, maybe each person can work on something alone. Like you come together, you discuss what you're going to work on as a team, and then each person can go and do a small part. But again, it is important that the pull requests are code reviewed first by the other collabs and then by a mentor.
Yeah, I guess first we will need to think and decide how to organize everything.
And of course, story 12 also needs to be merged, so we're done with that. And before you start any other code, we need to merge issue 12, so you can have it in the main branch and go from there. And if nobody has questions, we can move on to a learning module with Peter.
I think I want to clarify something before we start with the learning module. So since the coming week will be the last week, or rather the coming 2 weeks, I think that is also the week we need to plan for the recap post that we have to write, isn't it? So probably you can start a thread somewhere in the channel where people can drop a few comments, and maybe we can decide who will do a draft for the post, and then we can all review it at the end.
Yeah,
It'd be a good opportunity for someone that wants to get into technical writing.
Yep, thank you very much, Peter. And I'm telling you from now that it's not going to be me. I prefer somebody else who makes it. I'll make the thread. I can help. I can help with that.
I think Christina seems very excited for it.
I knew that.
All right. try to start the slide. I'm not sure how to do the screen share with Zoom and Google Slides. Let's see. So
For
do
now,
you
I
see a
see
screen share?
a black screen, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, me too.
Let's try again. Oh, I'll just go through it without doing it in the presenter.
Yeah, we can see it
Just
now.
do this.
Yep, it's cool
Yeah,
now.
no, it's good.
Okay, so the learning model for this week is communication for devs, and which is a very interesting topic, or very important one. I think some of what we might discuss on it today, we covered a little bit in one of the office hours where we talked about technical writing and communication. So we would see a bit of that. So communication for devs. So communication, I think, is a very important aspect when in a working environment. I think if you've been working, maybe you are not a fresh graduate and you've been in this industry, probably maybe like Christina, being from a different field, you would also have encountered how important this is in your working environment. And I think as new developers or new engineers going into the workforce, this is one skill that, if you will, it can make you stand out in the crowd. And one way to show off the skill is through documentation. And why documentation? It's because it helps you and also your team. It helps you to understand why you did what you did in the past, so you can always go back and reference your decisions. You have somewhere you documented your reason. And the process of writing this document down helps you to learn more about the subject, helps you to refine your ideas, maybe make improvements. And they are very useful, especially for very big decisions, maybe like architectural decisions, such that when you have new members on the team, it's easier for them to read through that document and understand why some certain decisions or certain things done on the project is done the way they are. And it also helps avoid an island of knowledge or institutional knowledge where just one person or one specific person knows everything about the project or specific important areas about the project. So in that way, if you have documentation to cover all these areas in your project, it can empower every team member so that people can come in and look at the document, understand the context and the reasons, and be able to make improvement without having to rely on specific persons to only work on things. And how do you do this? So one way to go about writing this document is to write for the person who knows the list in your project, or at least write in a way that you don't make any assumption about whoever is going to read the document. Put in as much context in the document as much as possible. You know, any acronyms that you use in your work domain, you put the full abbreviation there, or the full meaning, without expecting that whoever is reading the document automatically understands what you mean in the document. That way also for you, maybe you're on a very long break and you return back to work and you read that same document, you know almost nothing about it. It makes it faster and easier for you to get up to speed if you write the document with as much info and detail as possible. And also another tip is optimizing for the person who needs a quick reference. So for you as a person, you may want to reference your decisions in the future and you just need a specific place without reading through all the whole document. You should optimize how you write this, the documentation for easy reference. You can do this through using specific headers or sections, making things in bold so that they stand out for, if they are important. That way, even when you need to make quick reference, you can easily spot those comments. And maybe you also have like a table of contents that makes it easy to navigate between different sections of the documentation. Here there's a example of a good documentation from the React router. Personally, I think another documentation that I found very useful is the one from Stripe and also Vue.js. I think there are two documentation that I found to be really, really elaborate and easy to get started with, and also easy to reference specific details when I need to. So another way you can show off your communication skills is through pull requests. If you remember, we talked a bit about it, I think in one of the office hours, about writing pull requests, and you want to do this because how you document or how you write your pull requests helps give reviewers enough context that enables them to go through your code and make a good review. A good pull request that is clearly written, communicating the ideas behind the changes you are making or why you are making them, would make the code review go much faster. But pull requests without any details as such would make it harder and very slow for the work to get done and reviewed as quickly as possible. So also, it's a big part of interviewing. Maybe I think there are some organizations that collaborate with the people they are interviewing through pull requests, but also when you go through these interviews, they want you to explain the code you've implemented, why you are doing what you are doing. They want to see your thoughts process in that place. So writing proper descriptions or details in your pull request as to what you did and the flow of and communicating your thoughts process and reasons for the decision you made gives you keeps you prepared for scenarios like that where you need to explain your ideas. So those are like very important places you can shine with your communication. And how do you do this? You can do some of this. I think you already see from the Collab Lab pull request template, being able to put screenshots or videos to show how things work, putting links to resources or permalinks to the code you are referencing, or maybe a particular code you are describing. Also, one way to shine with this is to self-review your code before you ask others for review. So after you make your pull request, before you ask or tag people, assign reviewers, you can go through your code while you are writing the pull request description. You can go through each part of the code and put details in the description to help you explain the ideas or the changes in the pull request better, and referencing codes as when needed. And this part of self-reviewing also helps you remove any unwanted code that you mistakenly left in in the commit. And another way also is to keep your pull requests small and narrowly scoped, such that they are easy. Each pull request just focuses on a particular functionality or feature without putting a lot of different things in one pull request. Because if you do a lot different features or functionalities in one pull request, it becomes hard for the reviewer to follow through what you're trying to do. They can't keep context. They easily lose context of what they are reviewing. So when you have small pull requests, it helps them to follow through your changes and also looking through your the description to see what you changed. And there's an example here of a good pull request. Do you see this issue? I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you see here, it says like this type of changes is new features and updates dependencies, which you also see there's the dependencies being updated. And you can see as part of the code changes, the left comments describing what they are doing. Also very important, specifying what issues your pull request is affecting helps give context to the reviewer. And then in the description, there's a summary of what has been achieved, and then going into details of what was done and what changed, different section of what changed. Then also very important is the steps for testing, detailing how you expect the reviewer to be able to check your work and how they can do stuff, like fill out the forms with a new item, make sure it adds to the list, and make sure that the item appears in the list. This way, you know what you're testing and how they should test the features. Another place where you can also utilize your communication skills is also commenting code. Because this can give your team or also your future self more context as to what they're actually tracing through the code that you implemented. And it can also be a way to self-document and see the decisions behind the code. Behind the code they are reading through, because sometimes it's not very straightforward to understand why a particular code is being implemented the way they are. And how do you do this? So you can focus when you write comments in code, you should focus on why the code was written rather than what the code does. Personally, I'm not a big fan of having comments in code. I see depends on the team anyway. Some team prefer to, or they allow having a lot of comments in code to describe what the code is doing. But for me personally, I prefer to have very little comments, because the moment I tend to put a comment in code describing the code, it means I've written something that will be hard to maintain. Otherwise, the code should be implemented in a way whereby it's readable through the variable names, through the function names, and rather when you need code, it's more like when you need comments, rather when you want to explain the reasons behind the code. So maybe you have a particular functionality and you want to document why that function is there, if it's something that won't be very obvious to the team. For example, earlier in the year, we had an issue with one of our Next.js code base when we've migrated from 10 to 11 or 12, and we kept having issues in the production code, but on the staging, there's no issue. So apparently somehow during the build process, some things are being swapped that makes it fail. And we had to do some sort of a magic in code that when we're running in production, we would use some sort of polyfills to be able to prevent those bugs from happening. And if you look at the code, or you run it in dev, you would not notice the problem, and you would be tempted to delete that code because it shouldn't be there. But in this case, we have a specific reason for doing that, and we had to put a long comments in the code to describe why we're having the error, pointing also to some open GitHub issues and some Stack Overflow comment and why we have the fixes there. And in that case, whenever we want to change that code in the future, we can have a proper way of testing if the issues are fixed and if it's safe to remove the code. I think this is one place where writing comments in code is very useful. And that's mostly it for areas where you can shine with communication, with work. And here, the section would like to ask if you have any questions regarding some of the things I went through, but also maybe we can share from your experiences so far with the Collab Lab. What has been your experience with documentation or code comments or pull request description? And also maybe Golf who can share in the end our experience with also the communication in general as regards to developers. Any questions? I would stop sharing.
I don't really have questions per se, but I wanted to make a comment about the importance of very descriptive PR descriptions. English is hard. Anyway, I think that it's extremely important, really, because many times the folks who you're working with as a junior engineer will be people who are at least a couple of years, if not decades ahead of you. So you don't want to waste their time, and you just want to quickly go straight to the point with what you changed, what your piece of code is going to be doing and everything. So I think that's something I'm going to be taking away from this process as well, because before the program, I did not really have a lot of experience with drafting PR descriptions that were very detailed, very straight to the point, even maybe, including screenshots or how to test and QA steps and all of that. So I think that's that really stands out to me, and it's something I want to continually just make better personally. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Any other person?
I, for example, had zero experience writing a PR. I never wrote a PR in my life before joining the Collab Lab. And sometimes I think on my the first couple of weeks, I had the feeling that now the issue is done. If the PR would be written, by itself, and in the end, it was no, it's actually the most important thing, because you need to explain it to the other team, because they will be taking care of reviewing the code, but also to the mentors. So at that point, I realized that it was key, and yeah, that someone should take some time to write it properly. Documentation has been also a big piece, because we had to go through a lot of things that we didn't understand, and personally, for example, about Firebase, I had to read a lot. So yeah, that was also very important. And also from some things that I've been learning through these weeks, I've been writing stuff for myself also, because I like technical writing, but I was mainly writing for myself to understand concepts like Git rebase and all this stuff. So this has been very useful, reading a lot, but also writing a lot to understand better. So I think those are some of the most important things that I've been learning through all these weeks.
What are your opinions on code comments?
That was something actually that I think we went through that with you during office hours, right? I was actually not familiar with the GitHub interface, like how to add comments on specific, I don't know, lines of code that you want to review. I mean, I personally, I still think I have to learn a lot to make better code reviews, but yeah, like yeah, I think like each of us, like as all of us are beginners, or maybe some of us are more beginners than others, like can write more detailed explanations or even better questions to ask what is this, like how did you approach this, and or why did you decide to do it like this. But yeah, definitely it's something that can always be improved, at least from my side.
Yeah, I think when you for the comment, like asking why you did stuff, you would likely get a lot of that, especially as a beginner, where maybe you might be doing something that probably to the other engineers, they would like, this is weird, why are you doing this? So if you explain, especially in the beginning of the why you implemented something, it would help them understand what you are doing, and they could give you a better reason than making it look awkward, like, oh, why is this person doing this? And you probably also maybe just copied the code from somewhere on Stack Overflow, and you don't know why you copied what you copied. So knowing why you do stuff is very important. I would say, because I had some interns then when I was still in Abuja, and they made some changes. I had opinions on them, but I would just only wanted to understand their reason or thought process towards doing that. And they couldn't explain, why you just copied code. And for me, I don't mind if you copied code, but if you understand why you are doing that, we can have a better discussion, so always just figure out why stuff works the way it should. So they know that you make the effort of understanding what you are doing. So it's very important.
Yeah, I still remember the task about showing the different error messages. And I was done with the issue. And I remember your suggestion, Peter. Yeah, maybe it would be better with, like, instead of creating so many ifs, just writing a function to display every message. And I understood what you meant, but at the end I was like, but it works, why do I need to change it? And in the end, it took me a while to figure out how to do it. And then when it was like, this is actually way more easier than what I did, and I don't know why I did it so complicated. But yeah, sometimes it's annoying, but in the end it's like, yeah, I mean, you also need to follow the advices from more experienced people, and yeah, in the end you also learn.
But sometimes also, I mean, the experienced people are not always right. They have times where they are very wrong. So in the cases when you know actually why you are doing stuff, then you can stand your ground and explain your reasons and show them why it's the other way is better. They will definitely agree. But when you can't prove your reasons, then you would always think that they are right. Like, the point is not always just listening to them because, oh, this is right. But when they suggest stuff to you, does it make sense? If it doesn't make sense, you ask more questions, rather than just like, oh, okay, I will take what you said because you are senior. It's a lot more about understanding why. It goes a long way than maybe. I don't think it's about seniority, because we are always also very most times very wrong. So.
But I didn't dare to prove you wrong. At least not at that point.
Okay. Yeah. So one thing I would like to say is repeat again about the code comments, the comments you have in code is a lot of time people put comments and they explain what the code does. And for me, it's like a trap. Once you see yourself explaining what your code does, then just take time. I do this personally, take time and go through what I'm trying to achieve and see if there's a way to write it such that I don't have to explain what the code does. So maybe I have a lot of if else and they are confusing. I have to figure out what if I use a switch statement, or what if I break this process down into different functions. If you just have a function and all it does is just cause a couple of functions that are well descriptive, then it could communicate the intention rather than having a very long function that does a lot of stuff, and you have to really look at each logic line by line to figure out, so that's one way I think you can go, so that when you write your comment is focusing more on something that is not so obvious, like, oh, why this UI is this way, Godford, do you have any advice?
Yes, I had a comment on, when Christine and you talked about how some of her code wasn't so good with all of the ifs, and she changed it up and said, okay, now it looks a lot better. So I was reading a book about refactoring today, and in the introduction, it says, okay, we all want clean code, but why do we want it? Why is it necessary? And it says that if you are just writing some software one time and nobody else is going to see it, then it's okay if it's messy and you don't need to change it. But the thing is that maybe you need to change it in the future, or maybe other people see it, and that's the reason we write clean code. So we don't get an advantage. The machine doesn't get an advantage, like the browser will understand any kind of JavaScript you write, but your coworkers or your future self, you will help them a lot if you write clean code. And about comments, I agree that if you have to explain a lot, then it means that you can improve your code. I mean, comments, I use them if I have maybe I have a complicated mathematical calculation. I want to explain in one line, okay, what this math calculation calculates is this. For example, if you do something with graphics or whatever. And a trap you can fall in with comments is that if you change the code, then forget to update the comment. And this is also true for documentation. So if you decide to add documentation, you should also be super careful to update it every time something changes. And I also want to say on the pull request process that it starts from the user story itself. So it needs to be well defined. So if somebody in work or whatever gives you a user story that's not very well defined, the first step is to ask questions and make it more defined. And then when you do your commits, it's nice if you can use Rebase Interactive to squash commits, because sometimes you might have commits like this. Okay, here I fixed a typo. Here I don't know, did some ESLint improvements. So it's good if you can batch these together. And when somebody goes through the commit history, they don't see 50 small commits that don't do anything, or a commit that says, okay, here I added this, and the next commit says I deleted it because it didn't work. So also nice commit history is very important. When you try to figure out in the future, maybe something breaks and you try to figure out which commit broke it and which PR broke it. So this can guide you and to see.
Do you actually also consider do you also consider important like commit message, like commit descriptions? Because I think we haven't talked that much about it. Like not writing like super long descriptions, or like not writing importing and then the name of the whole function. I don't know.
I mean, with descriptions, it depends on what you're doing. I mean, for me personally, if it fits in one line what you're doing, then you can just add the description in the PR. But maybe if a commit, you're doing something, I don't know, very complicated or whatever. I mean, it's if you can add descriptions, yeah, that's cool. But for me personally, I wouldn't think they're necessary. And yeah, I mean, in the PRs also, you should link to the issue they're fixing and all that. And what else do I want to say? Yep, and communication for devs, also it's especially for remote devs, it's the async communication over Slack and stuff. So there also you need to be very effective. And in Slack, it's easy to either under-communicate or communicate, like ping everybody instead of just the people you need to ping. So both of those are super easy and you need to try to balance them. Yep, everything else you already covered, so thank you very much.
Yeah, cool, thank you. Regarding the Slack one, I think if you join organizations, like they should mostly have their style of communication. So you have to read the guide. So where I work, we have our own style of communication, and which is in the employee handbook. So you have to learn how we do our asynchronous communication. Because maybe some people come from an organization where they are used to tagging people in all the messages, even if they are not needed. And they think that's the best way. Sorry, excuse me. So they try to, like I was in a team earlier this year with a colleague from my workplace. We were on a client project, and on the client Slack, they were very used to doing at every channel, and it looks like everything is an emergency. And with my workplace, we don't do that. And this person was a new employee, and he went straight to a client project, and he had this sort of behavior. So every communication was always at channel, and everybody gets this big bop, this notification like something is important. Meanwhile, the message is just something ordinary that someone can respond in 5 days. So as long as it's not important, don't use at channel. So learn this communication so that you don't overuse it, and then people don't know when you have an emergency and when something is not an emergency. I think you also mentioned something about the pull request that I wanted to touch on, but I forgot.
I don't know, I was talking about the commit history. Maybe you want to say something on that.
Yeah, so I would find the link later and share. There's a very good blog from GitHub. I think they'd had it like 2 months ago, to be precise. It was really detailed about how to do arrange your commits and pull requests, how to use this Git rebase to when you want to squash commits together in case you are working on something and you have maybe you have a lot of, how does Debbie say it, yet another fix, and you want to squash them all together into one. It's really detailed, and it's something that I read and trying to apply some of the principles there. I'll find it later and share. And also the commits messages are one way to put your communication, because someone can read through your commits and see what you are doing. What I try to apply or get some of my team recently to do is to use something we call some commit style, in which we call conventional commits. So there's also a website, I think it's conventionalcommits.org, where you can find some of those ideas. I use this especially when I have some libraries, so that it's easier to release through semantic versioning for this library, but I try to use it for regular project as well. So that you put a prefix of fix or fit or CI, so that someone can know what your commit is doing, if it's related to a feature or a bug fix or just documentation. That way you can easily skim through commits when you are doing this review or trying to sort through commits history. Those places I find it good. Then when I add extra details, like in the body of the commit, is when like I'm having a breaking change. It's easier for me to put some details there for my future self, but also some of these tools are able to pick up those details from the breaking changes and put them in a nice change log. So that is where it can really come in handy. Yeah. I think that would be the wrap up for our communication. And I would say it's something you don't learn just once, you keep improving year in, year out. And if you prioritize communication, I think you will stand out amongst other people, especially with documentation and poor request description, because trust me, some engineers are, they finish their code and they think, oh, they are done. They don't care about pull requests. And it's really hard for me to work with people like that, because I have to ask repeated questions, but you make it enjoyable and then people enjoy working with you. Yeah, that's it. I'll hand over to Godfo.
Okay, thank you very much, Peter, for presenting this learning module and facilitating a conversation between us. I bet everybody learned a lot. And yep, I already posted the thread for working on the recap, and I'm going to post about what we're going to do the next weeks. So thank you very much, and see you. Have a nice week.
Thank you, guys. Have a nice week.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, so soon. Okay. Bye.
Oh, we didn't hear Terry's voice today.
Yeah, I was like expecting more, but I was just like, wow, so soon. Okay.
Did you fall asleep?
All right,
Bye,
see
bye,
you.
everyone.
All right,
Bye,
then.
guys.
Bye.
Ciao.